For a series defined by war cries, bloodshed, and history bending under the weight of human conflict, the opening tone of Outlander's final season feels almost unsettling. There is no immediate clash of armies, no looming battle framed as inevitable destiny. Instead, the story begins quietly, as if inviting viewers to lower their expectations of spectacle and lean closer. That choice alone signals that this ending will not be about how loudly the story concludes, but how deeply it settles. From its earliest seasons, Outlander trained its audience to expect turmoil. Wars reshaped lives, violence arrived without warning, and survival often depended on split-second decisions. Conflict was not just background, it was the engine that drove character transformation. Because of that history, many viewers entered the final season bracing for one last grand confrontation. What they encountered instead was restraint. The narrative slows, not out of hesitation, but intention. Scenes linger longer on faces than on action, on pauses rather than impacts. The absence of chaos feels deliberate, almost confrontational, as if the series is daring the audience to reconsider what truly deserves attention at the end of a long journey. This shift reflects a deeper evolution in how the story understands itself. After years of reacting to external threats, the characters are no longer defined by what they fight against. They are defined by what remains once the fighting has passed. The final season reframes danger not as something approaching from outside, but as something already lived through. The early episodes lean heavily into memory. Conversations drift toward moments that shaped lives long ago, decisions whose consequences never fully faded. Instead of charging forward, the characters look back, not with regret, but with awareness. That backward glance becomes the emotional spine of the season. For some viewers, this change is jarring. The lack of immediate stakes can feel like a loss of momentum, even a betrayal of what the show once promised. Yet beneath that discomfort lies a quiet truth the series seems intent on exploring. Not every ending needs escalation to feel meaningful. Outlander's final season recognizes that its characters have already paid the price of survival. They have endured wars, loss, displacement, and time itself bending against them. Another battle would add noise, not insight. What matters now is not whether they can win again, but whether they understand what they have carried with them all along. This is where the season's emotional weight begins to surface. The tension no longer comes from looming threats, but from unresolved truths. Small moments carry disproportionate significance: a shared look, a half-finished sentence, a decision not to speak. These moments ask the audience to listen rather than react. The storytelling choice also reframes heroism. In earlier seasons, heroism often meant action, protection, sacrifice in the face of danger. Here, it looks quieter and more human. It appears in acceptance, in choosing peace over conflict, in acknowledging limits. That redefinition feels risky, but also honest. As the narrative unfolds, it becomes clear that the final season is less concerned with plot mechanics and more invested in emotional accounting. Who have these people become because of what they endured? What values survived when certainty did not? The answers are not announced, they are revealed gradually, through presence rather than spectacle. This approach forces viewers to adjust their expectations of closure. Instead of anticipating a decisive victory or tragic loss, the audience is invited to observe something subtler. The culmination of a life shaped by choices, not outcomes. That perspective shift is what gives the quiet opening its power. By choosing stillness over spectacle, Outlander makes a statement about legacy. Legacy is not forged only in moments of violence or triumph, but in the way people carry forward what they have learned. The final season begins with that understanding, setting the stage for an ending that values meaning over momentum. In doing so, the series challenges a familiar television instinct. Bigger is not always better, and louder does not always last longer. Sometimes the most resonant endings are the ones that trust the audience to sit with silence and recognize its weight. From the very start, Outlander's final season makes it clear that this story is not ending with a battle, but with reflection. As the final season continues, the quiet tone begins to reveal its true purpose. What first felt like restraint gradually transforms into clarity, showing that Outlander is no longer interested in proving its intensity. The story has already done that. Now, it is asking a different question. What remains after survival is no longer the central struggle. Instead of battles, the season invests in conversations that once would have been overshadowed by urgency. Characters speak with an awareness that time is no longer something to outrun. Words are chosen carefully, pauses carry meaning, and silence is allowed to exist without being filled. These exchanges hold a gravity that action scenes rarely achieve, because they reflect lives fully lived rather than dangers narrowly escaped. Legacy emerges not as a grand concept, but as a series of intimate realizations. It appears in how characters remember those who are gone, and how they choose to honor them without fanfare. It shows in the lessons passed quietly from one generation to the next, often without certainty they will be understood. The season treats legacy as something fragile, shaped by memory and care rather than victory. There is also a noticeable absence of urgency. No ticking clock, no looming catastrophe demanding immediate response. At first, this can feel unsettling, as though something crucial is missing. Over time, it becomes clear that the absence itself is the point. Peace, after so much chaos, feels unfamiliar and even uncomfortable, yet deeply earned. What gives this approach its emotional strength is the trust it places in the audience. The series does not explain every choice or underline every theme. It allows meaning to surface naturally, through behavior and reflection rather than exposition. Viewers are invited to engage actively, to interpret, to feel, and to bring their own understanding of endings into the experience. The characters themselves seem aware that they are living within an ending, even if they never name it. There is a tenderness in how they interact, a sense that moments are being savored rather than rushed past. Ordinary routines take on significance, not because they are dramatic, but because they represent continuity. Life goes on, even when the story concludes. This emphasis on the everyday reframes what closure looks like. Instead of tying every thread into a neat resolution, the season accepts that some questions remain open. Not everything broken is repaired, and not every loss finds balance. That acceptance feels mature, reflecting a worldview shaped by experience rather than idealism. The absence of a final battle also resists the temptation to romanticize violence. Earlier seasons acknowledged conflict as necessary, but never without cost. The final season honors that cost by refusing to turn it into a spectacle one last time. It suggests that true resolution lies not in conquest, but in understanding. As the narrative draws closer to its conclusion, emotion builds quietly rather than explosively. Viewers may find themselves moved by moments that would have seemed insignificant in earlier seasons. A shared glance, a familiar place revisited, a memory spoken aloud for the first time. These moments resonate because they feel final in a way battles never could. By the time the story reaches its closing stretch, it becomes evident that the season's strength lies in its restraint. Outlander is not saying goodbye by reminding viewers how intense it once was. It is saying goodbye by showing what that intensity produced: lives marked by resilience, love, and hard-earned wisdom. In choosing this path, the series leaves behind a different kind of ending. One that does not demand applause or shock, but reflection. The legacy it offers is not a single defining moment, but a collection of choices that continue to echo. And in that quiet conclusion, Outlander proves that sometimes the most powerful endings are the ones that trust silence to speak.